I'm not really sure why so many people will want to, kind of look at the parents as if they're just being stupid and it was unintentional and it was a lapse in judgment. I don't really understand that. And I want to explain to you why it is that now looking at this backwards, because I've seen more video footage than I had when I posted my first video, and I've looked at it a little bit differently as well. Like, I've tried to figure out how long and how they wrapped that child up the way they did in the saran wrap. This was an intentional act that caused distress to their child. So therefore, this was intentionally abusive. The minute you start to do something to another being that is not like stepping on somebody's toe, that's unintentional. But the minute you start to do something to another human being, particularly a child with whom you're supposed to be building a foundation of trust with, you start to see that that child is in distress. A loving, caring, child-focused parent will stop that action and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was doing that. They won't double down on it because that's what unintentional is. Oh, I didn't realize that this was going to cause my child to have a negative reaction. Let's break down how this child displayed that they were feeling to people that are perfect strangers, me. This child was wrapped so many times in the saran wrap that you couldn't differentiate between his arms and his body. That's how thick the wrapping was. A clear wrap, you couldn't see through it to a point where you could even look that there was a line right there. So how many times did they go around this child, and what were they doing in that process? They didn't bother to put that on camera. So I'm imagining it wasn't quite as funny as they were trying to make it out to be. And then they take the end product, and I'm calling him a product now because they treated him like he's an object for views. And they manipulated the child, holding the saran wrap, putting him down, picking him up on the bed and in all these directions. And you catch this child's face in clear distress, confusion with eyes watering. I am a perfect stranger. I don't know this child, and I'm identifying this child on a screen in distress, and you're going to tell me that these parents weren't intentionally harming their child when they were there in person watching their child's reaction to this? How can we say it's just a stupid act and it wasn't intentional? How? And then to put it on video and then to post it for the world to see. A child who cannot consent to being posted online, a child who was rendered an extra level of helplessness because as a toddler, they are already helpless. How can we possibly say this wasn't intentional? And then the mother doubles down and defends her actions that he thought it was funny and he was enjoying it. She's a liar. Liar. We saw his face. It wasn't more than 5 minutes. The video was a few minutes long. The part we saw wasn't 5 minutes, but the wrapping, the action, the whole thing, bottom line is this. If you are pranking your child, ask yourself why. You're supposed to be creating trust with your child. When you play jokes on your children that cause any moment of distress, that whole thing where you see people scaring their children, their child jumps, or you are shaming your child on video going, what word did you say? The one you're going to get in trouble for, and you're sticking a camera in their face because you want to catch that moment for content. When you are hiding things from your child, when you are wrapping them in bubble wrap, or saran wrap, when you are pranking your child, you are eroding trust and creating distress. Therefore, you are intentionally abusing your child. I'm not going with stupid on this. I'm not going with unintentional on this. I am going with you have to take full accountability, rethink your actions, and stop. And we need to start holding these parents accountable, because saying things like, oh, I don't think they really meant it that way, when the child was clearly in distress, is showing more concern for them, the adults who are supposed to be in charge, than concern for the child who deserves our protection.